The final thing that we're going to talk about here are what are called the rotational kinematics equations. And just like we had three important kinematics equations when we were talking about linear motion, there are three kinematics equations that talk about rotational motion. The difference being that now we're going to have Greek variables in these equations as opposed to our traditional variables. So, our first major linear kinematics equation, we've kind of talked about this one already, and it's the first one on your AP formula sheet, is V final equals V initial plus acceleration multiplied by time. Well, we're going to use a very similar equation when we talk about rotational kinematics, in that we have angular velocity final equal to angular velocity initial plus angular acceleration multiplied by time, or omega final equals omega initial plus alpha times t. After we did that equation, we talked about that really long one that is probably the most commonly used linear kinematics equation, I think, from the physics problems that we do. It's the x final equals x initial plus VOT plus 1/2 AT squared. When you were starting physics, that seemed like a scary formula, but I'm betting most of you are pretty proficient with that now. Well, we have a similar formula when we talk about rotational kinematics. But instead of talking about x final and x initial, now we're using theta final and theta initial. So we have angular position final equals angular position initial plus angular velocity initial multiplied by time plus 1/2 angular acceleration multiplied by time squared, or theta final equals theta initial plus omega initial t plus 1/2 alpha t squared. Now, here's the odd thing about the AP formula sheet. When it comes to linear kinematics, the College Board feels that all three of these formulas are important. The third one is really just a combination of the two formulas preceding it. But it's used enough that they give you that third equation. However, when it comes to rotational kinematics, they only give you these two formulas on your AP formula sheet. I'm not sure why that decision was made, because this third formula still does apply. Now, is it really that big of a deal that they don't give it to you? I don't think so. You haven't had to use these formulas very much at all on the AP test. They're going to talk about Newton's laws and rotation and rotational energy, rotational momentum a little bit more than the kinematics, but there's no reason not to include this. And it's just as easy as the other ones. We're going to replace all of our x's with thetas, we're going to replace our v's with omegas, and we're going to replace our a's with alphas. So instead of v final squared equals v initial squared plus 2a x final minus x initial, we're going to have omega final squared equals omega initial squared plus 2 alpha times the quantity theta minus theta initial. And there you go. Now you just need to apply these to some different problems, and we will post some videos doing the sample problems following this.